And welcome to the Power of Romance panel. I am Natasha Polis. I am a booktuber, influencer, and lover of all things romance and fandom, and I'm so excited to be moderating. This is actually my first panel I'm moderating at Comic-Con, so I'm super excited. I am joined by an incredible panelist, a group of panelists here, and I'm going to ask them to go down the line, introduce themselves, and exactly how they are involved in the romance industry.
Hi. Hi, my name is Hazelwood, and I write romance novels. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Shiloh Watson. I work for Phenomenal Book Club, but I previously covered romance at BuzzFeed.
Yay! Hi everybody, I'm Maureen Lee Linker. I'm a senior writer at Entertainment Weekly, where I write a romance column, Hot Stuff, and also just cover anything romance adjacent. And my debut novel, It Happened One Fight, is coming out next summer.
Hi, I'm Adriana Herrera, and I write romance and read a lot of romance.
Hello. I am the Christina half of Christina Lauren.
And I'm the Lauren half of Christina Lauren.
And we write and read a bunch of romance.
Okay, so romance is having a moment right now. It seems there's been a big shift in the media of readership and all-around popularity. It's part of the conversation in ways that it has never been before. Why do we think that is? Someone wants to take that.
Because a pandemic happened, and I just think that romance first and foremost is about hope, and I just think, and we all know it's going to have happily ever after, and in a really uncertain time, we just needed a happily ever after.
Yeah. Romance is a soft landing, and it's something you can go into and know that you're going to get a hopeful ending, and we needed that.
And I think the confluence of the pandemic happening and Bridgerton premiering at the same time meant that people who maybe had never read a romance novel before and then found like comfort and escape in a television show then have now started to discover the genre on the page. And so that was great timing. Thanks, Netflix.
Yeah, just what everyone else has been saying. I think it's reliability in a time of uncertainty. And again, just like having that hopeful escape. It's a fantasy, you know, when our world is maybe not going the way we want. We can dive into a romance novel and escape.
Okay, so for Maureen and Shyla, let's talk about romance coverage. What have you seen shift in these last years? Is romance finally getting the respect it deserves?
I mean, I feel like the short answer is no. But
it's getting there.
Yeah, I do feel like it's improved. Like the fact that Shyla and I exist is good. Yes. And you know, the New York Times has a column as well, and Carly Lane Perry, who writes often for Vulture and Pace magazine, doing a lot of romance coverage. So there's definitely, I feel like we're getting more mainstream outlets to raise up the genre. And I think the most important thing is to have reporters at outlets cover romance who know romance.
Yes.
Because the biggest problem historically has been that if we did get mainstream coverage, it was very condescending because they had people covering the genre who had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think that, you know, before they weren't talking about romance at all. So I'm just happy that we're finally out of the shadows, out of the corners of bookstores. Like, we're on Netflix, we're on HBO. Like, romance is bigger and better. And like, that's like, I think the most important thing. But because of that, I feel like it's also given people the opportunity to criticize without, like Maureen said, like knowing really what they're talking about. They're not necessarily readers in the way that we are. But I'm just happy to be having a conversation and to try to get that out there more so we can get more romance readers, like Romancelandia, you know?
And for our authors, how have you seen like the conversation shift on social media? Like, are you interacting with people more? What have you seen on TikTok?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok has been a real big thing for romance for the last couple years. We all know that there are books that have gone viral. We've been lucky enough to have some books get pretty big thanks to TikTok. And it's nice because you do see new waves of readers coming in all the time. I think, back in 2012, we had like a big romance boom then. And then it was sort of quieter for a few years, and then it's kind of growing again. So you do start to see these waves where new people are discovering the genre, a genre that they didn't know that they would like. They sort of assumed that they wouldn't because for whatever their preconceived ideas are about it. So social media has been really great. I don't go on Twitter because it's the bad place.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's really lovely being tagged and stuff. And I know like Allie has seen a lot of engagement with the Love Hypothesis, which I am obsessed with. Yeah. So,
Allie, how have you seen that for you?
No, I totally agree. I mean, I debuted, and I think that probably 99% of the people who picked up my book did it because of social media, because there were like these TikTokers making, and bookstagrammers as well, making these amazing videos and like just generally cool creative stuff, because social media right now is not just like reviews of books, it's like a very specific way of engaging with books and characters that's just unique and just really fun. And yeah, so I mean, definitely social media is amazing, I guess, except for Twitter, which is the bad place.
I think for me, or what I've noticed, is that in the last couple of years, like there's been a shift to where the people who were in romance knew that there was a fandom that was really powerful, but now I think like people see romance readers as a fandom, which is like it's a stronger word than just readers. And I think that that's a piece that I feel is different, and that has come with like TikTok and with Bookstagram. I do feel like, again, for me personally, as someone who writes characters that are not what you mostly see, I would like to see more engagement of stories that are not, the typical story, like people of color, queer people, neurodiverse people. That would be my hope, is that the fandom keeps expanding and stretching its interest in other types of love stories.
How do you think like the normal reader compares to like a romance reader, and what makes them different?
Devotion? Yeah, like I just feel like romance readers are voracious readers. I don't remember the statistic, but there's like they buy and read some ludicrously large number of books per year, when I feel like the average American reads like one book a year.
Is that true?
I think so. Oh my God.
or less. No, like 40% of all fiction sales, 40% of every subgenre are romance. And so like romance readers tend to be women like 18 to you name it, right? And I think they buy buy romance, like 12% of all book sales, if I might have that wrong. But it's like a huge amount of money that we pour into it because we love it and we show up for the things we love,
I think also people recommend books to their friends or whatever if they read something they like, but like romance readers are like, here, have this, you must read this. And so they're really like evangelists for their favorite books.
I was gonna say, it's like not a recommendation, it's like proselytizing.
Yes.
I have to say, Lo and I were in a Barnes & Noble waiting to sign some books, and so we were just watching. And you guys affect what happens in the store so much, because we were watching readers walk around with TikTok open as they were going through the shelves like it was their grocery list or something. and so you guys have really affected what stores are putting out, because they're realizing wow, we don't have to put romance in the corner. If we put it on these tables, people will buy it. And it was such a cool thing to see.
Yeah, I also think that romance readers are more accepting and open. I feel like other genres, like, not to call anyone out, but I feel like they can be a little elitist sometimes. But because romance has often been in the shadows, I feel like, you know, romance readers understand, and so they're open to different types of stories. They're open to, you know, different characters, people that we wouldn't normally be reading. And I think that's really nice that we're more accepting.
Yeah. Okay, so when you were younger, what was your first romance book that got you swept up into? And who told you to read it? And were you scandalized?
Well, I feel like a lot of millennials, my gateway drug to romance was Meg Cabot. and like reading The Princess Diaries and The Mediator series, and I was scandalized that Princess Mia used the word condom in her diary. So I guess yes.
We are older than Maureen. My parents were very much, my dad was a big sci-fi fantasy reader. My mom was like very literary fiction, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the Danielle Steele section and I'll see you guys later. So my very first romance was Palomino by Danielle Steele.
My all-time favorite.
Yes. So good. But the thing is, I would read the like kissing or like romance, more intense parts over and over, and I just wanted more. And so I started writing really dirty Days of Our Lives fan fiction. And here we are.
You stole my answer.
I'm so sorry.
Palomino and Untamed by Elizabeth Lowell,
Yes.
which is a historical romance, were I remember reading those two books like back to back and thinking like, I'm different now.
Yes.
And then, I'm Latin, so I watched a lot of telenovelas, so I was like, you know, already kind of in there. But those two were really like I was like 13 and like feeling things as I was reading it. So those are my two.
My mom was a huge romance reader. Her garage was like lined with bookcases, and she used to go to the used bookstore. We could get them for like a nickel. But she always bought like because there was like Harlequin and Silhouette, like romance and Silhouette Desire. And even at like 11, 12, I knew I wasn't supposed to read them, but I knew that the Silhouette Desire were the like steamy ones, and that the like just Silhouette Romance weren't. So those are the ones that I would go for. But the first time I read Flowers in the Attic, even though that is not the romance you should be picking up, that was the first time I read something where I was like, something's happening. You know? And I knew enough to hide it from my mom.
This is wrong, but I like it.
Yes.
Who hasn't gone? Have you?
Oh, I mean, like Maureen, I was reading mostly Meg Cabot. I did start reading Nicholas Sparks at the same time, which I later learned is it's not romance, but something else.
And he'll be the first to tell you.
Right, exactly. I learned my lesson. But yeah, Meg Cabot and just like Twilight, my YA classics.
So my first romance novel, at the time, I was like 12, 13, I don't know, but I was watching Friends, and I was a lot into Ross and Rachel, which I am not anymore, but at the time, I thought they were the dreamiest couple ever, and I loved the back and forth. And there were like Silhouette Desire or Mills and Boons or Harlequins, you know, those like really thin books, and they were, of course, I was in Italy, they were in Italian, translated, and there was one laying around my house, and the main characters were Ross and Rachel, and so I was like, this is basically the story of Ross and Rachel. So I read it, and like they had sex like 15 pages in, and I was delighted. It was so good. It was so good, and yeah, I mean, I just didn't want to read any other book after that. It was just like, if they don't have sex 10 pages in, what even is the point? It was so good. It was so good.
Just because she's here, I need to embarrass her, but I was first scandalized by Christina's fanfic. I was 15.
And I have to tell you, she told me that at some point, and I was like, no.
Which actually goes into my next question, which was, so fanfic used to be such a taboo subject. I mean, I stayed up reading Twilight and Harry Potter fan fiction all night long and did not tell anyone for years. What's the most surprising way you've seen fanfic come up in your life?
I mean, I definitely think just like the fact that there are major trilogies and movies now that are made from fanfic. 50 Shades of Grey, yes. Number one. I mean, I think the Kissing Booth movies might have been fanfic as well. What? Does anyone know? Am I totally making that up?
No, I think it's true.
No, it is. I think so.
Yeah, I think so. But I don't remember.
I love it.
But it's great. You know, I think that it's just like, you know, say what you will about it, everyone will have opinions, but the fact that it's coming out of the shadows, I feel like that's been the theme of today, but yeah, that's just so impressive that people are writing fanfic and it's becoming real books, real movies that people can enjoy, and it's not just, you know, shared on AO3 or whatever.
Yeah, when Beautiful Bastard came out, that's like a reworked fan fiction, and that was our first book. Ow! And it was so taboo, we like deleted our fandom Twitter and like didn't tell our agent that we had written fan fiction because we were worried it was going to be this black stain.
Because we were going to write YA books.
We were going to write YA. LOL. And so we thought it was going to be this really big deal, and so we like called our agent Holly and we were like, we have something to tell you, and she was like, oh great, like you guys are plagiarists, like what's going on? But it ended up being just that she was like, so you're telling me that you're internet famous? Okay, that's not really a problem. But it was a big deal, and we like weren't sure how open to be because, you know, there had been some big fan fiction books published that were very like quiet about their origins. Cassandra Clare, E.L. James, they hadn't really talked too much about it at the time, and we were like, we're going to be super out about this. And we did get some shit, or some problems. Sorry, little kids. But you know, now it's so nice to like see Allie publishing, and there's like fan art on her cover, and like, and you know, like, I mean, I honestly think it's wonderful. These are all like original, super creative stories, and they just inspired us to write. So anything that gets people writing, I think, is just a wonderful thing, right?
I think pretty much all of us who write probably started by writing fan fiction, not even realizing that we were necessarily writing romance. I mean, mine was just all Sirius Black and a witch who looked suspiciously like me.
Yeah.
Don't know where that came from.
I totally agree. Also, like, yeah, I love how my publisher just like owned the fact that my book used to be a fan fiction. Like, they never tried to hide it. When my agent, who, by the way, I found on AO3, like, she found me through my fan fiction, and when, you know, we were trying to figure out who to have as the cover artist, my agent was like, wouldn't it be cool if you were a fan artist? And my publisher was like, yeah, it would be. And we had Lilith Starr, who was this like amazing fandom artist that I'd been her fan for so long. She ended up doing the cover. So it was just so nice to not have it be a shameful secret, but to be like, you know, we're just gonna be brazen about this. Maybe it's copyright infringement, maybe we're gonna get sued, but who cares? It was just really cool.
Can I say one more thing? I just remembered this. So was it The Atlantic that we did this interview with?
Oh,
or
God.
Forbes? It was like some big publication. And like, you know how, like, I think most people here are fangirls or fanboys. Like, you're at Comic-Con, you're in a romance panel, like, you guys are gonna understand what I'm saying. That like, things that happen in fandom start to feel really normal, so that when you start talking about them to people outside of fandom, you don't realize like how it is until you're like halfway through your story, and then you're like, wait a second, this has no context for you. So we were talking to, I'm just gonna say Forbes, it might have been something else, but it was like that like caliber, and we were talking, you know, our publicist had like worked really hard to set up this interview, and we were really excited about it, and they asked like how we met and how we started writing together. And I'm like halfway into the story about how the first thing Christina and I ever wrote together was based on a fan fiction prompt about Edward having a foreskin. To Forbes, and I could hear Christina on the other end just going, And like we finished the story and we're like, there's no way she'll include that. Like they're gonna know that that's not something you put in Forbes. No, it was literally that was the longest section of the interview. You could tell she was just like, like writing it up with glee. Anyway, so I sent that to everybody because, you know, we had to be like, look at what we were in, but also ignore the foreskin.
But also, nobody who knows us was even remotely surprised that was in there.
That's true.
Ruined for polite society.
So romance book covers have undergone an overhaul in the last few years, from shirtless Fabio to cutesy illustrations. It's made reading romance in public less embarrassing. So for our authors, what have those book cover conversations look like? And to Maureen and Shyla, has the cover shift impacted how you pitch your stories?
I feel like it actually makes my job harder in that when I'm trying to decide what to read and what to review and what to call attention to, like, it's kind of a wash. And there are cutesy cartoon covers on things that have like very heavy subject matter. And so then I feel like it makes it my job to tell readers, like, the packaging does not match the insides. And also like help people distinguish between, like, every cover has a cartoon on the front of it.
What about our authors? What do those conversations look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm conflicted, right? Because to me, part of what I find amazing about the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years is that, like, now we don't have to be embarrassed to read romance in public. Like, we have this ability to, like, now voice and people understand that the romance genre is big and vast and that it's doing things that are interesting and important and feminist and all these things. So that to me is kind of, it's like I'm conflicted because I want it to be romance forward. Like, I want that book to look like there's gonna be people like getting it on and falling in love. But at the same time, I also understand that there's a lot of new readers coming into the genre that need time to kind of like, because I've been reading, I'm 43, so I've been reading romance for 30 years, like, and in the beginning, you know, it's different. So I think that piece of it, like, I understand why the covers have gone through the transformation, but I also want us to, like, be, like, out and proud about our romance reading.
I think what you said, though, about the illustrated covers is it's tricky because, like, you look at Adriana's book and you know exactly what you're going to get. And it's a beautiful cover and it's like art, you know? And there's a lot of illustrated covers that are very cute, and you don't know how spicy they are. It's hard to know. And I love that readers are having conversations with each other about spice levels. I think that's super helpful because then you guys can help, like, recommend books to each other. But I think for a casual person walking into the bookstore, it is tricky to know, like, what necessarily you're getting into. Yeah.
Like a rating system, a spice
readers
level.
get real salty about stickers on their books. Like, sometimes if you have an autograph by the author sticker on it, people are like, they get annoyed about that too. So it's like, yeah.
Can't win.
Yeah. Like a window decal that comes off easy.
Maybe like jalapenos, like really small on the back cover. Like, this is a 3 jalapeno read.
A little spicy rating.
Like right next to the author photo.
All right, we're onto something here, publishing.
Speaking of spice levels, do you feel the readership is wanting more graphic scenes? And do you think the stigma has died for wanting more, or has that kind of just, okay.
No, I mean, I think that, I don't know, I think that now that we have so many romance readers, and this is, I mean, like you said, like, if it's not happening 10 or 15 pages in, what is even the point? So I definitely think that it's something that people are looking for, and obviously there are, like, there's a variety, you know, there's like closed door romance and all of that, but I think that now, because it's becoming part of the norm, people want more. It's like once you eat a jalapeno and you know what it's like, you're like, okay, I can handle this, give me the next spicy thing. So I think books are the same.
Well, and I think, you know, a big part of romance's appeal historically has been the fact that it champions female pleasure and it is empowering women to engage with their sexuality and celebrate it. And I think the more that that has become more widely accepted in society, and things like thirst culture are so active on social media that pushes people to be more open about seeing that in what they're reading. I mean, when we're posting gifs of Regé-Jean Page licking a spoon,
Right.
pretty obvious what we're looking for.
And I mean, again, I think to me it goes back to romance being that safe space for people to, like, we now know, like, there's a spectrum in sexuality, desire, gender expression, and all those things you can explore safely in a romance novel, right? So I think that piece to me, it's like, I mean, if it's hot, it's great, but I think it's beyond that. Like it's a way for people to, like, have some self-discovery about the things that turn them on, about the things they find delicious and exciting to read or to think about. So I think it's hot and it's fun, but it's also, like, deeper than that too.
I think for us, it just depends on the characters. Like, on Honeymooners, like, we will have some readers that they'll find out we're writing a book and they're like, oh my God, but please don't make it too sexy. And then we'll have other readers that are like, please make it sexy. And so, like, On Honeymooners is like one of our most popular books, and it's pretty closed door. We tried to make it dirtier. In fact, our agent, who is, like, we call her Holly Root, we call her a closet piglet. She was like, I think maybe at least to each a little more humpy. And so we wrote a scene, and it was so awkward because Olive and Ethan, it was like we are never like, our characters are talking to us, but it was really like they were like, so are you gonna leave now? And it just read really weird. But then, like, we just turned in Fizzy's book, who's in This Old Maid Equation, and she's a romance writer. So, like, she uses the C and P words, and, like, it's much sexier. So for us, it just depends on the characters.
So romance can be difficult to adapt sometimes, but what are your favorite romance to movie adaptations, and why do you think they have made great films or TV shows?
Well, one of my recent favorites is The Lost City. And I love it because it is so self-aware. And I feel like we just haven't had a movie or TV show like that in so long. I mean, obviously, we have Bridgerton, which is incredible. But The Lost City, I mean, featuring, like, a romance writer and her cover model, I mean, and just, like, the only one hammock trope. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. So I really love that movie felt like it was made for romance readers in particular, not just people who like rom-coms, but for the reader. And so that one was just really special. And it's fun. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it.
But in response to your previous question, they could have smashed a little bit.
Well, they just needed a little more chemistry, I think, too. I didn't need them to smash, which was the problem. But I loved everything about that movie. I just think they needed a little bit more spark.
Heartstopper is like,
Yeah.
Heartstopper.
There we go.
Oh, I love Heartstopper. But one of the things I love about it, and it's like that tricky piece of, like, you really love a book, and then you're like, oh no, what are they gonna do with it when it goes to TV? And I found that it was better.
It was perfect.
Because the casting was so perfect.
good.
So yeah, that's like probably my favorite adaptation that I've seen recently. Also, The Lost City. Like, I went to see it with two romance author friends, and we were obnoxious in that theater. We were cackling.
Yeah, I think I also am a big fan of The Lost City, and part of that was just like Shyla said, like, I think adaptations that are made by people who understand and unabashedly love the genre are where it's at, because they're not, sometimes you watch something and you can feel it actively apologizing for its existence.
Yes.
And that's the opposite of what we as lovers of romance want on our screens. And so I love that Lost City actively called that out. Like, she was sort of like, you know, down on her books and her genre, and Channing Tatum's character is like, no, like, you make people happy, you give people an escape at the end of the day. And so I love that that was so explicitly called out in that, but I just want, like, so much more. Like, I don't want Bridgerton to be like a fad and just the one thing. Like, I want everything being adapted and made, and I want historical series and contemporary features, and there's such a rich catalog of books, and I feel like studios are still not very imaginative, and they need to get better at it.
What's been your experience getting your books adapted on the end there?
We don't know because nothing has yet been actually filmed, but we have a number of things that are in early stages to later stages. The farthest along are the Honeymooners and Roomies, and I want to just give a shout out here to Maureen, who reviewed Roomies in Entertainment Weekly, and that's how Jenna Dewan saw it, and she took it to Andy Fickman, our director, who had the trust in us to write the screenplay, and now it's being cast right now. They're having a casting call on Monday. Excited. Yes, and it's been really wonderful. We've had bad experiences with people who are not fun to collaborate with, but for like a lot of different reasons. But we've had a really wonderful experience with this team and with the Honeymooners team, which incidentally is the same production company that did the Hating Game movie, but it's a different screenwriter and everything else. And both of those have been really good experiences. It's just nice when people are excited about your project, and that's really the most important piece in getting it through. Obviously, you need money, and like the Honeymooners now is also fully financed. We can tell you guys that. That's the first time we've ever said that. And they have an offer out to the lead actress for Olive. So, but it's been really nice. Like, there are actually really nice people in Hollywood, turns out. So we found a few of them.
Okay, what are some of your instant read tropes?
Enemies to lovers. Fake dating.
Brother's best friend.
Ooh.
Wow, that was a great reaction.
Any more specific ones?
I like fated mates.
Fated mates, that's me. Always and forever. Insta love.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to play a little game. This is the TikTok rating system. So, if you guys have seen this trending everywhere, it's the he's a 10 but blah blah blah. Okay. So, this one's for Edward. He's a 10 but he calls you Spider Monkey. What would that make him?
He's an 8.
There. So if you guys could all go down the line and maybe pick one of your characters and our iconic romance character and do a little rating system. And I'll give you a hard thing. You got this.
So I pick
Someone from
my, I guess my one book that I have. Okay. He's a 10. Wait, I say it right. Mm-hmm. He's a 10, but he hates pumpkin spice latte.
That's a good one.
This is really
Iconic characters or your characters?
I got one.
Okay.
All right.
I can't wait to hear it.
He's a 10, but he steals your underwear and keeps it in his desk drawer.
I got nothing.
I have nothing.
Yeah, one, just like one.
Maybe I'll do one for Akweke's book. I just read You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, which is one of my favorites. Like, he's a 10, but I'm dating his son.
Yes. Okay, we need to stop and just take a beat to talk about this book because everybody in this room needs to get this book and read it if you have not. It's called You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, and it is amazing.
Transcendental.
Who is it?
You made a fool out of death with your beauty. Akweke Emezi.
Any others?
I'll go with throwback to like first romance question and say, he's a 10, but he's dead and haunting my bedroom.
I love it. Okay, so for our authors, what is your process like in writing your spicy scenes? And do you always feel like you need to up the ante every time you publish a book? I know, Christina Lauren, you guys had already mentioned, readers wanting less spice or more spice, but how do you guys deal with that?
How do we write our sex?
Yeah, like what's the process? Like, do you start off slow? Do you get,
I mean, we usually plot all that out before, it just has to fit the characters. I mean, we always make this joke about you can have as many sex scenes in a book as you want, as long as each one. I mean, you could have a ton, but then it's more like erotica, not necessarily like romance. So everyone has to push the scene forward, and it just has to really fit the characters. So you don't want to have a shy virgin, and then in 5 minutes she's reverse cowgirl or something. So that just doesn't fit. So for us, everything it's not just about what's happening. It's about what they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they're noticing, how what's happening right now is going to affect how they feel tomorrow. And that it fits who they are as individuals and as a couple.
Yeah. I love to read high heat, and I write high heat. I always say, in the words of Megan Thee Stallion, if it don't bang, then we can't hang. And so for me, the sex scenes are really integral to how I figure out my characters. And usually, I do a lot of the same things. I think if you write the things you find delicious, you can write them better. And I think you just can render them better. So I think for me that piece is I usually, there's a lot of things that are similar in the way, but because the characters are different, they always feel different. But yes, my process, a big part of how I figure out a character in a book is with the sex scenes. With this book, which is historical typically doesn't have a ton of sex scenes. When we're in the editing process, my editor was so we have 8 sex scenes. So we're gonna have to cut 1. So I was
You just sold 20 books.
So I was but we have to leave the one on the top of the Eiffel Tower. That's the only thing. But yeah.
One thing I am discovering writing now is that I'm very conscientious as a writer, so you don't want a ton of word repetition. But sometimes a dick is just a dick. Yeah. How many synonyms can you use?
How many?
And also, sometimes that's the only word that works. A synonym or a euphemism, it just is not working in the moment. And so I think making my peace with word repetition in sex scenes is fine has been a journey.
Oh yeah, I mean our thesaurus search history has got to be the most interesting in the space.
Okay, so I am going to open it up to questions. If everyone could line up right here patiently as I ask this last question, and then, first one in line. Why don't you guys all line up behind her, Miss Sadness? Okay, so for authors, tell us about your most recent release and what should we expect from you next?
I know. So this is Something Wilder. It came out in May. This is the story of Leo Grady and Lily Wilder, and that is a nod to Joan Wilder from Romancing the Stone, because this is our love letter to Romancing the Stone. Woo! And they are former flames who met when they were younger, and they've been separated across about 10 years through circumstances you find out as you read. And they're thrown back together when Leo and his group of guy friends goes on an adventure with Lily's expedition company, and she takes tourists out into the Red Rock Canyons of Utah on these fake treasure hunts. And everything goes sideways, and they have to decide if they want to go after what might be a real treasure together. So that's what this book
So if you live Lost City, this is
But you should also read Romancing the Stone. Watch it.
And next year we have Fizzy's book out. So if you read The Soulmate Equation, Fizzy's the best friend, and that was one of the most fun things we have ever done. We are obsessed with this book right now. So Fizzy's book, we have not yet announced the title, but it's out next spring.
And this is a Caribbean heiress in Paris, and it's a historical romance set in the 1889 World's Fair, and the heroine, Lucelana Heath-Benson, is a Dominican rum distiller, and she comes to Paris to try to sell her rum. She has some problems trying to do that, and she meets an earl who is a whiskey distiller, and they figure out that if they get married, they can each get what they want for their businesses. So it's forced proximity, it's marriage of convenience, it's a literal rivals to lovers, and
It is hot.
it's pretty hot. And in October, I have a contemporary coming out called On the Hustle, and it's about a woman who has a business where she designs bedrooms with the person's favorite book as a theme, and she's trying to take that business out of TikTok, and her ex-boss, who is a terrible, terrible person, turns out to be the guy that brings her into a reality TV show. So, yeah.
My debut at Happen When Fight is coming out next summer, and it is set in the golden age of Hollywood. And it's about a leading man and leading lady who absolutely detest each other and find out through a series of events that they accidentally got married for real on a set. So they have to go to Reno for 6 weeks to get a divorce. And of course, while they're in Reno, they realize maybe they don't hate each other.
We don't have a book on that. My next book is called Love on the Brain, and it's the story of a neuroscientist and an engineer who have a little bit of a past, but find themselves having to collaborate on a project at NASA. Yeah, and that's it. That's a pitch.
It's so cute. Before we say anything, I just want to remind everybody we have a signing at 12:30. Is that right when it starts? And you guys, it's AA. It's in the Sales Pavilion. AA. 02. Okay. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. So when you go do that, make sure you come see us.
Okay.
Hi. I'm Cindy. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Cindy.
Before I wanted to say to all of you how much of a difference you have made, not only me, but I'm sure all the people here. You might say that romance is kind of the down, but it's really not, because you guys bring it to our hearts. And some of us have really difficult lives, and so anyway, my question is, where is the most interesting place that your characters have had sex?
Who's going to make the in the butt Bob joke? Do you guys remember that? Does anybody remember that? I'm very old, thank you.
I don't remember that.
So you guys remember, what was it, the marriage game? What was it called? Whatever, let's move on. Newlywed Game. So Bob Eubanks asked a couple that, and they were like, in the butt Bob. He's like, no, like geography.
Where's the weirdest place? La Perla dressing room?
Yeah, probably.
Probably the La Perla dressing room. Don't do that. They just have curtains.
The top of the Eiffel
I was
Tower.
gonna say, yeah. I feel like that wins.
I was literally thinking maybe I can steal Adriana. The top of the Eiffel.
I know.
I can't think of anything interesting. Like in fan fiction, like in a spaceship maybe, but it's not that. I mean, it's like a bed. There's a bed on the Millennium
But
Falcon.
in space.
So.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I also write romance, and I'm in the hunt for finding a literary agent. And I know there's a lot of problems about writing to market, but I'd love to hear what trends are you really excited about in the genre, and what do you see as maybe not as popular as it used to be?
Well, this is very self-serving in a sense, but I'm really excited about non-Regency and non-Victorian historical books like Adriana's and my book. There are so many interesting periods of history and so many people throughout history whose stories have not been told, and I hope the fact that these are starting to be published is the start of a new trend, because there's only so many empire waist dresses you can read about.
Yeah, I mean, same. I think we were talking last night about Akweke's book and like what they did with that romance, and just being able to give readers the ability to read about backgrounds, experience, things that they perhaps have not before, and that the new, like, romance authors can explore new ways of telling, like, a taboo story of someone who falls in love with the dad of the guy she's dating.
Right.
And make it something that can be unpacked and still a beautiful love story. So, yeah, I think basically what Maureen said.
I think there's a lot of people writing stories that, because they're seeing what's out there and what's doing well, and instead I think you should try and write the book you've never seen before. And really try and think how within romance, with the confines of the genre, which are wonderful to work within. I mean, it's a really hard genre to write because everybody knows how it ends. So keeping a reader engaged for a book where you already know the ending is a real talent, right? But I think if you try and within those rules really explore like new ways that nobody has ever done something before, that's what I want to see. Yes. I want to see really just big swings.
Yes.
So we have 4 minutes left, so
Sorry, we'll be fast.
one answer per question.
What I wanted to ask is, what I've been seeing recently, I don't know if is novels being turned into webtoons. Like, what do you guys think about that? Like on a webtoon, on Pop or something like that. And how would you love for one of your books to be turned into?
I would love that. I only have read webtoons. Like, I watch K-dramas and then I go back and read the webtoons that the K-drama has been adapted from. And I love webtoons. That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you.
So many.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned it a few times, but it can't be enough to tell you guys, go buy it. You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. Like, I'm shocked that that book is not everywhere.
Wait, what book?
You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty.
Mm.
Hi, this question, thank you specifically to Adriana. So the magazine out there is very
Then you're going to make me cry, and then I can't answer.
I never read historical romances because I didn't believe like they were included. Something like fiction. I just
Aww.
Thank you. And I just want to say that I wrote that book because I've been reading romance for 30 years and I'd never read a story with a Latina that got to be swept away by an Earl and wear beautiful dresses and go to balls. Like, and we need that too, right? So thank you for reading and thank you for speaking.
A lot about diversity and how romance can be a great way to, I guess, get diversity in the publishing world. Wanted to see where you guys either saw those changes, whether it's diversity in where writers are coming from, starting from fan fiction, or also, I guess, just the stories that we're seeing in public, and I guess we'll call it traditional publishing, but also in media as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I like. to me, what's been phenomenal about what's happened in TikTok and what's happened in social media in the last couple of years with romance has been amazing, because it's really kind of been like a tidal wave. And what I would like to see next is that there's more books with people of color, with queer people going viral, that readers take more chances on those books. And so that, because again, like, romance is a safe way to explore an experience or a background or a history that you don't know, that is different than your own. And I would love to see readers be able to stretch themselves a little more.
And I want to say, as a white lady on the panel, that you should not be afraid to go outside of your own worldview to read. I mean, Adriana's book is one, not just the first historical I've read with a Latina heroine, but one of the best historicals I've ever read, period. And part of that is because, since she is writing about a Latina heroine, she has to engage with the context of history. And that just makes for a much richer story, because it's not ignoring reality, it's celebrating how you find happiness in spite of it. And that's, to me, the best thing this genre can do.
So unfortunately, that's our last question. Thank you all so much for coming. Please make sure to head over to the signing area. Lauren, what was the number again?
AO2.
Okay, you all got it. Thank you.
In the sales pavilion.